Lead Live, reminding you of your personal genius and how you think in order to actualize what you desire.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lead Live. My name is Dr. Elnora Webb. And to family, baby girl Mitchell. It's wonderful to be here with you all. I want to tell you something that's really rather interesting and unique. I always ask guests what's special about you that most people wouldn't know about you. And I'd like to share that what's special about me that most people don't know about me, which is that I have 58 nieces and nephews, 2 more on the way this year. One of my nephews expects another girl, and one of my nieces is having her first child. I'm very so fortunate. Even when I think I have challenges, I think about one of them and I'm humbled. I'm blown away. I smile. Not only do my dog Bosco give me many reasons throughout any given day to smile, to laugh, to feel joy. Each one of those remarkable individuals do. I'm thinking about their names, those that come to mind and are floating through my system. I'm thinking about all of them. I'm also thinking about my godchildren. All. Wow. And one has an extraordinary child. I'm thinking about, actually, excuse me, 2 have extraordinary children. I'm thinking about how they add so much value to life itself and the nature of who we are. I think it's intentionally to add value to life. I think the Great Spirit, and I believe in a Great Spirit, a source from which we all come, to which we all return, and are part of as we're living this life, gets to experience this life through us, through all living beings. And I believe that at the fundamental level, we're born to be free. We're born to be free. And the constraints we experience are our own creation. And I don't mean all of them are literally what you've done, I've done, an individual has done. Collectively, though, we've created the constraints that we're experiencing. And in a comparable way, or a way that we've yet to experience, we can change those constraints. That's why I love partnerships. I love working in community. There's nothing better than fellowship, even if all I'm doing is observing, learning, listening, catching all kinds of insights, using those insights to advance an agenda that serves the greatest good. So today's topic, Lead Live, LEAD standing for Leadership Excellence and Achievement Demand, is very intentional. What freedoms can come from tax advantages? What freedoms can come from being tax advantaged? We tend as a society to primarily focus on the freedoms of speech, religion, press, assembly, right to petition the government. All those freedoms are essential. And I am fortunate, I think I chose a spirit in this body to be in a place, to be in these United States of America, to be able to advance those same freedoms through my own behavior, through my own influences of policy, people, places, conditions. Yet these important for sure freedoms are not all that we should aspire to, humbly speaking. What freedoms come from tax advantages? I think the fundamental freedoms that so many of us seek and not all of us talk about. Money freedom, time freedom, location freedom. Money freedom, freedom from constraints, what's desired, being fully oneself, having a financial cushion that's not only sufficient for addressing living expenses, but so much more. Sufficient cash flow for all needs and wants. And being able to leverage good debt to compound the assets one has, to ensure the money freedom is continuous, not just within one generation, in subsequent generations. In the subsequent generation, generational wealth, in fact, is built. So what is time freedom? Comes from smart use, from my humble perspective, of the IRS codes. Time freedom. Having money freedom is a sure way to ensure time freedom. To create a schedule that one desires most. To be able to be more freely, fully, do what one desires. Learn to give, to receive. Location freedom. To travel to any place one desires, advancing whatever agenda one desires. Family, business, exploration, genealogy study, whatever we want to do. So I'm reminded of the countrywide protest in these United States against the 1%ers. Remember that, some of you? You don't have to be in your 60s to remember that. It was recent. And I, being very curious, because I felt pretty ignorant about what was going on, and I should not have been. So what did I do? I began to ask. I asked questions of protesters, smart, brilliant people, some educators, some doctors, engineers, lawyers. I mean, these are remarkable people I'm speaking with, as all have the capacity to be remarkable. And not just because of their profession, because of their hearts and how they connect that to their minds and their actions and their values. So those protesters and organizers, when I asked them what was their goal or goals, almost universally, the responses were, while different, they were complementary. It was about calling out the injustices of the wealth gap. And I said, okay, now that you called it out, because it's pretty prominent, then what? And the responses were mainly reflections about how the injustices manifested in harmful ways. And they were very clear that some of those injustices were intentional, structural, and would require some systematic change to the very infrastructure that we hold so dear. And even then, some of them admitted that they wanted change, but they really didn't want to experience the difficulty of the change. So they might be the problem, maintain the status quo. How insightful. And they also emphasize those harmful injustices that manifested in many ways, not only affected those who were not financially, not only well off, but financially healthy. It affected all members of society. And they were very explicit about how it even affected those who are seemingly financially advantaged. And we know just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean you're happy, healthy, joyful. It helps, it doesn't guarantee it. So those events inform the beginnings of my serious reflections about not only those conditions, but related conditions and much more. So I began to listen more in order to understand at a deeper level, to observe, to read. I immersed myself in a world of what I would call now financial education. As a result, I've encouraged thousands of folks since to read some seminal books, many, too many to spend just 20 minutes here illuminating. But over time, we'll share more. Definitely The Power of Zero by David McKnight, because it very quickly, in just a few hours, grounds one in some of the facts about money, taxes, and the whole process of one pursuing certain constraints, what they want to pursue, and yet there are constraints they have to get beyond and not insurmountable. Yet when they understand the history of structure of taxes and money in this country, they're better able to anticipate and think about the power of compounding one's money. Think about how to protect one's money. Think about how to access one's money tax advantage, and preferably tax-free. So the other book, The Laser Fund by Doug Andrews and his son. And so many lessons I'm learning from coaches, mentors, including Eric and Sandra Olson. So what they all understand is the power of each one of us, that each one of us has in the United States, I would say beyond the United States, even given the structural constraints, to become free financially. We have to begin with believing that it's possible. And even if one doesn't believe, borrow my belief, borrow others people's belief. As you shift to create a vision for your life that's really honoring you, honoring your family, honoring your community, honoring humanity. Regularly, I ask young people, and I share with older folks, the powerful impact of leveraging IRS codes to their advantage, just like the most financially educated, who are among the one percenters. And let me just make very clear, not all one percenters are financially educated. Those who build generational wealth are, and or they leverage financial experts who are educated. So one simple example of the influence of taxes in particular is best illuminated when I share with young people the following. And when we redo this video, I'm going to ask Jethro, who's remarkable, to add a visual to bring this home. You just take $1 and you double that dollar 20 times. What do you have? And so when young people are doing it, they say 1 + 1 is 2, 2, 4, 4, 8, 8, 16, 32, and they keep going on and on. And I say, I want you to take all the time to help you. I'm going to do the math. 1 million over $1,048,000. I said, take that same dollar and double it 20 times. The difference is pay a 33% tax on the gains. What do you have? And the immediate reaction is, okay, $1 million, $1,048,000, that's a lot. So the immediate thing, oh, I think it's 300, especially when there's a group of young people. Oh no, it must be 500,000. No, it's got to be close to 100,000. I said, you're getting it, you're getting close, but try 28,000 plus. It's it. So that is literally, it reflects, or it's what happens when you tax not only your original earnings, but the growth on your earnings. The reactions are all over the place. That's devastating. Wow, that's the reason why my parents are not wealthy, because they make a lot of money, but they pay a lot to tax. All these different statements are shared. And so I'm mindful, and I remind them of the power of us as a community of people in these United States to contribute to the overall well-being of everyone by paying whatever it is that we're supposed to pay in taxes based on the earnings that we have. But the power also is placing those savings, increasing levels of savings, in instruments that actually will safeguard not only the savings, but ensure that that pre-tax or that after-tax, funds accumulate, protected. They're like, there's no such thing as any kind of guaranteed protections. Adults tell me. I said, really? Who told you that? And they mention a variety of people, experts. I won't even name the different professions, but there are many folks who say there are no protections. I encourage them to look at 4 different IRS codes. And when they do, and they get back to me, or when they've read different books I've recommended, they're like, wow, no one told me. I have an expert, and he or she has never told me this. I said, what kind of license do they have or education do they have? I said, they're not required to know that. Unless they seek that out, they don't know. And it's not that they are necessarily misguiding you. They don't know what they don't know. So they're guiding you in a way that they believe is best. I love to talk with them as I'm talking with you to understand what they understand, because I'm going to learn something undoubtedly, yet to share what I know so that they are better able to serve the next client. Well, don't you want to, do an what do you call it, NDA or a non-disclosure agreement? I said, no. I want the world to know this. I want the world to know that in their respective country, there may be some advantages that they have that they're not aware of. And definitely in these United States, too few of us are financially educated. Yes, we've got levels of literacy. That's a narrow band of financial education. And supposedly in these United States, according to a 2021 study, there's at least 50% literacy, financial literacy in this country. That's awesome. But when we look at financial education, the breadth and the depth of literally understanding aspects that are going to lead people to greater financial success, unfortunately, over 90% do not have that level of education. So what are we about? We're about ensuring that not only do people understand how to get to money freedom, they are able to leverage what they really desire, which is time and location freedom. So that reminder of the protest and that leveraging of the new knowledge and deep knowledge that I have by speaking with experts, following the lead of experts. It's called Focus, Follow One Course Until Successful, experiencing different levels of success. That's what we want. Who are we? Not only those of us at Lead Live, those of us who are part of a leadership development team, over 13 licensed professionals across the country through Pinnacle Lead. Those of us who are growing in my developing organization, Signature Solutions. Those that are leveraging and taking advantage of Palladian Philanthropy, the nonprofit center of financial education. We're all concerned about you, us, collectively, having the time and the money freedom. So I have a few notes here. I don't want to forget. And that is that it's important for us to pay the government what we owe, whatever that is, not only with integrity, but in order to ensure the sustainability of our infrastructure that serves folks. And if our money is going in directions we don't like, then let's get the right elected officials in order, in place, so that they can literally redirect those tax resources to the right locations. But I want us to pay ourselves first, whatever it is. For making so few dollars, I don't care what it is, a dime, a dollar, $10,000. You scale it where it's reasonable. 10%, 20%, 30% of your earnings, set it aside for self. Place it in an instrument where it's going to compound, be protected 100%, and you are able to access it when you want to. Tax advantage, preferably tax-free. That's what we want. We also want you to understand that without freedom of money, time, location, certain things can't happen consistently. Our overall health, our happiness, our joy. Health. What's the number one reason why people have diseases? Researchers, they come up with all kinds of things. There's this virus, there's this. We walk around with a lot of bugs and viruses in our system. We don't even know the number of viruses yet. And yet some folks with a lot of viruses have no symptoms and are strong and are moving forward and doing profound things. So what's the number one cause of disease then? If we've got all that stuff in our system, what tends to turn it on? Stress. And what's the number one cause of stress? And at least documented in the United States, probably reflection across the planet. And that is money worries. Whether it's money in terms of what we know as money in these United States or some other means of exchange, the inability to basically take care of our basic needs and then aspire and be able to experience the wants. I remember talking to someone brilliant, another brilliant person, and her and her husband own businesses. And I said, and I mentioned this before, the importance of all of us saving. And while and we were talking about different groups of people, and she said, for some people, we have to honor the fact that getting that extra cigarette, that those chips, those burgers, those hot dogs, those, you name it, things that literally, if you save daily, could end up with an extra $300 a month. If it's $10 a day saving or $20 a day saving, it's $600 a month. You multiply that, or you take an 8% interest on that over a 30-year period, you've got over almost $500,000 or almost $900,000. She says, well, that's too simple, but most people don't see that. They don't see long-term. They're stressed right now, short-term. So they'll do things that actually, if they saved, they could move towards building assets for themselves. But they're in such distress that they're calming and comforting themselves in the distress. And part of that calming, supposedly, and comforting leads to disease, heart disease, so-called number one cause of death across the planet, definitely in the US. And yet, what's part of that? Fears. And we call it false expectations appearing real. We call it all kinds of things. I like to shift it and follow another person who says, fear, you can just transform it into faith. E, for effort, your own personal empowerment. A, for taking action. And all the other A's that are affirming and that are responsibility. Just shift it. But fear is part of that stress that leads to disease, that leads to early death, that leads to what? A lot of dreams are in burial grounds where people have hopes and dreams. They don't move on them. And then they are 50, feeling like they're old. 60, knowing that their life has passed them. 70, wondering why they're still here. 80, afraid to go out and face the environment. And yet those are the principal years of our lives where we should be happy, joyful, and having a ball. I'll never forget, I was dating this guy many years ago, and his uncle, great uncle, his mother's uncle, literally 104 years old. I met him, and he's still joking about, I used to get women like you, and on and on. He was in his prime. He didn't stop working until he was almost 100. He had been a lawyer. He had been an accountant. He just chose to live life. He outlived his contemporaries. There's sad parts of his life, but the most powerful is that he chose to show up and show out as long as he could. That's what we're about. We want you to understand that there's a way to get to money freedom, for time freedom, for location freedom, to live life more robustly. is some of my other thoughts. So I think about when I went to China, looking at the mountains and looking at people literally climbing the mountains to go into their homes, or going to a few islands and being welcome into homes, and the floor was much more immaculate than many homes I've been in these United States, and the floors were all dirt. It's beautiful environments that these people created. They were wealthy. They made their circumstances full, replete with wealth. They understood the power of compounding in a very different way than we do here. And yet we're surrounded by wealth and we don't know it, don't leverage it. And so for the 1%ers who understand the tax code and use it to their advantage, I say kudos to you. And I say to the rest of us who are just beginning to use it, proud of you. Or the rest of us who are learning about it and want to know more, come to us, leverage us. And to folks who are fearful, we got you. We understand. You have a right to be fearful. You also have a right to let that fear translate from those things that scare you, undermine your well-being, undermine your forward progressive movement, to literally transforming and open your spirit up, where your heart is so open, you say, oh my God, I can see it. The vista is mine. I can actually build something for not only the next generation, but subsequent generations that I may never fill in the blank. When I went to Mexico and last time went into the mountains, another set of mountains, and I'll never forget the being on a bus and thinking, oh my God, is this bus going to make it? And this bus has traveled many times, you could tell, and there's only a one-lane path for that vehicle and a few outlets, miles away. And I'm like looking down thinking, okay, let me just think about what's wonderful about the life. And with others in this bus, and we're just going, I'm by myself, and yet I'm not. I'm with all these beautiful people who are from that community. And I end up in the mountains, isolated, it seemed, and yet more connected than I remembered ever being. That was freedom. The ability to go there. Oh my God. Came back rejuvenated in a way that I didn't even know was possible. Lessons learned. When I traversed England, didn't go as many places as I wanted to go. And I remember thinking, oh my God, how fortunate am I to live in Northern California? Doesn't negate where I was in England. I had no idea of what we take for granted until I just experienced the weather conditions, experienced beautiful people, but the constraints, I could feel them as though they were literally tying every part of my body. And then I had to break free because it was in my mind. I felt it, and then I took hold. It took hold in my mind, and I released it. Fundamentally powerful experience. In France, wow, from Paris to just the countryside, magnificent. I won't use some of the language that I used when I was there, talking to the natives and talking to folks who are from Martinique and other places that are French-speaking countries. It was just fascinating to witness the behaviors, the way people are treated and compartmentalized and literally placed in these class levels as though they meant anything. It was a powerful experience, and to be invited into circles that reflect different so-called classes, all brilliant, beautiful people, all insightful people, and somehow assuming that everybody has their separate places. It's fascinating. And this is just one person's experience. And then as I've gone throughout different parts of the Caribbean or Caribbean, whether it's Jamaica or Saint Martin, or for that matter, Cuba, just sitting and watching and receiving and viewing. And life is a trip, folks. Always coming back to appreciate what I have, but more importantly, to appreciate that I was able to connect with people. It reminds me that we're all basically the same. Different levels of brilliance, but you can find that in one community. Powerful. And also to understand the importance of being able to have access to the means of exchange in order to have time and money freedom. So I want you to know, in short, there are tax codes in these United States that advantages all of us. We just need to know what they are and leverage them. We do not have to live the same legacy our foremothers and fathers led. That's a choice. Some of us don't even know it's a choice, yet it is. The tax codes that the so-called wealthy use, the ultra wealthy, and I'm not talking about folks who have new money. I'm talking about the folks who have old money, are tax codes that are universally available. We just need to take the time to get the information from people who have the expertise and demonstrate that. And I don't mean expertise, they've got just a license, but they've demonstrated use of those tools. So in short, I just want to remind you of the ability to experience, to experiment, to reflect, to be, and to receive. And we have a tendency of experiencing and giving and not receiving as much as we deserve. So this is just your permission. Not that you need it from me, but I'm honored to be able to give you the permission. Receive, receive. You deserve it. You were born to receive, to give, to learn, to grow. You were born wealthy. And if you understand wealth is much more than money, then I encourage you to experience all aspects of it. Leverage the IRS codes to your advantage so you have the freedom to do more that you would do with more time. Meditate. Spend time thinking about, feeling the love that you have for people, even if you don't experience it as much as you'd like to, for what rational or even non-rational reason. And then, of course, get out. Get that wonderful feedback from the sun, from the winds, from the water, from the flowers, from the trees, from all that feedback, in addition to from all life, people without a doubt, animals, bugs. I mean, it's just amazing. It's incredible life. Experience it. And guard against letting anything get in your way of experiencing it more fully. We're appreciative of you. Most importantly, as part of that, we're proud of you for being you, because the degree to which you're you with integrity, you're being free, you are reminding us of the same, and we're experiencing greater levels of freedom. Wanda.